conversation further. So I will be sharing my slides here, and I will be talking through the PowerPoint, and I hope that you are all able to see my slides on the screen. You're right. So the title of my presentation is The History of Rastafari Movement in Malawi. And this is a book project, as I mentioned. So I'll just give an overview of the project, the book itself. And to start with, there is the cover of the book, how it is appearing, especially when it comes to print. And that's another a screenshot of the book cover. The book is explores the historical development of Rastafari movement. It situates the Rastafari movement within a political, cultural, and spiritual context. And then it also foregrounds the lived experiences, resistance, and transnational influences. Now, the on the colonial era at the beginning of the book. And here we are, amongst others, we are drawing a connection between Malawi, which was then called Nyasaland, and Jamaica, where the Rastafari movement emerged in the early 1930s. So we are discussing a character called Sir William Manning. So Sir William Manning was a British military officer who served as a governor of Nyasaland. Nyasaland is Malawi, right? From 1911 to 1913, he was a governor of Nyasaland under the British, Empire. So during this period, we had John Chilembwe. This is the struggle icon of Malawi. He led a rebellion against the British in 1915, in January, a month like this one, right? So he is a national hero of the first, not the first national hero, but he's a national hero who is remembered every year. On the 15th of January, we have a public holiday in Malawi. So during this period when Sir William Manning was a governor of Nyasaland, John Chilembwe had been expanding his influence through more outreach activities, construction of churches, establishment of schools, and intensifying economic empowerment initiatives amongst Africans, right, in Nyasaland at that time. Now, Sir William Manning was moved or transferred rather from Nyasaland to become the governor of Jamaica in 1913, right? And his tenure as a governor of Jamaica from 1913 coincided with significant developments in Jamaica as well, right? We had Marcus Garvey founding the UNIA, his organization, in July 1914, when William Manning was the governor of Jamaica. And Garvey's relocation from Jamaica to the United States in 1916, still under Sir William Manning as a governor of Nyasaland. So there's that connection between Nyasaland and Jamaica. Then we also had Leonard Howell and Robert Hines, who are also discussed in this book as the earliest Rastafarians to emerge in Jamaica in the early 1930s. And these two were tried and sentenced to jail for sedition in 1934 in Jamaica by Chief Justice Rio Grant, who happened to also have tried and sentenced John Chilembwe's followers to death and some to long years of imprisonment in Nyasaland in 1915. Remember, I talked about John Chilembwe as a struggle icon who organized and he led a rebellion against the British. So he was shot dead, he was killed, but his followers were tried and sent. And the Chief Justice at that time, who presided over the cases of the Chilembwe uprising, was Rio Grant. And it was the one who later on, 19 years later, he tried the first Rastafarians in the names of Leonard Howell and Robert Hines in Jamaica of sedition and sentenced them to jail as well. So that's another connection that is being drawn in the book. There is also a striking resonance between the works of John Chilembwe of Nyasaland of Malawi and Unia. For instance, we are bringing to the fore in the book that there were Gaveards in Nyasaland, which is the former name of Malawi, from the 1920s, actively involved in the movement in various spheres, which are being discussed in the book. And also the works of John Chilembwe himself also inspired some of the union members and organizers in America and the British territories in Caribbean and so on and so forth, particularly those who had heard about the Nyasaland uprising of 1915, which was led by John Chilembwe and was, crushed by the British. Now, moving forward, we are from the colonial era. We are also talking about the authoritarian one-party state. Nyasaland became independent on 6 July 1964. And in 1966, 2 years later, it officially became an authoritarian one-party state until 1993, right? But this period, 1966, 1992, the Rastafarians who were there existed under the one-party state. And during this period, public expressions were often met with repression, right? There was no congregation of Rastafari during this era. Until when we reached the 1992 to 1994 political transition from the one-party state to the multi-party democracy. That's when the spaces were open for cultural expression, and Rastafari then emerged openly as an organized movement during this era, 1992 to 1994. Freedom of association therefore enabled the emergence of the first two Rastafari congregations in the country, starting from 1994, which was not the case previously under the one-party state. Now, during this political transition, which began in 1992 in Malawi, it coincided with the centenary celebrations in Shashamane in July 1992, the celebrations for the 100 years anniversary of the birth of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie. So the simultaneous occurrence of the centenary birthday celebration in Shashamane and the political transition from the one-party state in Malawi created a unique moment in the spiritual reawakening of some of the youths towards Rastafari, that is in Malawi. And here I would like to share a quotation from the book from Ray Harawa. So Ray Harawa, in brief, is like Rastafarian, one of the prominent Rastafarians in Malawi. In Jamaica, we'll be talking about, in the Nyabingi order, we can be talking about Bongo Wato, right? Motimo Plano. So in Malawi, as far as the Rastafari movement is concerned, the Bongo Wato, the Motimo Plano of Malawi, we'll be talking about Ray Halawa, is one Rastafarian who has done tremendous work towards the development of Rastafari in Malawi. And you can't talk about the history of Rastafari in Malawi without mentioning Ras Ray. This is how he became a Rastafarian, right? In the interview that we had with him on the 15th of August, he mentioned that, here I quote, in July 1992, I was a secondary school student in Ngumbe, Blantyre, where I experienced a moment that would change my life forever. One evening while in the dormitory where we were listening to the international news on the radio, it was then that we heard about Rastafarians from around the world gathering in Shashamane to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Emperor Haile Selassie birthday or birth. That news stirred something deep within me, a spiritual awakening. It was at that moment that I deeply reflected and made the decision that I would become a Rastafarian. Learning about that event in Shashamane marked the beginning of my journey into Rastafari, a path I have walked ever since. So you can see the significance of Shashamane to the development of Rastafari in Malawi amidst the political transition from one-party state to multi-party democracy that happened between 1992 to 1994. Now, after the one-party state fell down in 1993, right? Then we had a new multi-party government that was ushered in 1994 in May. After that, that's when we had some brethren from Jamaica who visited Malawi and contributed to the development of Rastafari after it emerged as an organized movement during the 1992-1994 period of the transition. So we can talk about brethren like Bob Morgan, who had organized the Reggae Unite Africa tour to Malawi in 1997. And we had 5 reggae artists from Jamaica who came to perform in Malawi. And that was also a turning point for some of the youths in Malawi to gravitate towards Rastafari because they were enlightened with the performances and also the reasonings that happened around that tour. And later on, Bob Morgan, co-founded the first privately owned radio station in Malawi in 1998 called FM 101, which was promoting Black consciousness and Rastafari as well. And quite a number of Rastafarians in Malawi that you can talk to who emerged in the late 1990s who talk about the impact of Power 101 FM in their journey towards Rastafari and how it contributed their consciousness and so on and so forth. So that is one of the contributions from the brethren from Jamaica, one of which is Bob Morgan, and also Junior Manning, Easter J. He was part of the Reggae Unite Africa tour in 1997. And after the tour, he came back to Malawi. He stayed, he lived in Malawi. He migrated actually, and he lived in Malawi for years, from 1999. And during his time in Malawi, staying in Malawi, he assisted with materials like literature on Pan-Africanism, Rastafari. He also contributed or shared guidelines, Nyabingi, chants, and so on and so forth. So he also contributed to the development of Rastafari in the country. That's another connection between Jamaica and Malawi. And him being an elder and the Rastafarians in Malawi at that time being predominantly the youth, he was like a pillar who was offering guidance in terms of the development of Rastafari in the country because he was the prominent one, the most elderly person when the rest were, predominantly the youth. So that is another role that Easter J. Junior Manning played from Jamaica. And there were quite a number. This is just a few examples. Now, the book also talks about South Africa, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, United Kingdom, and the United States, drawing the connections between the Rastafari movement in Malawi and these countries. For example, we had 80 Rastafarians who traveled or corresponded internationally. They had, there were exchanges in terms of visits and correspondences from the late 1980s to 1990s with the brethren and sisters in these other countries. And the knowledge drawn from these exchanges would be shared locally within the Rastafari movement, and in the process shaped the development of the movement. And that is discussed in detail in the book. Lastly, towards going to the end of the presentation, to draw the connection between these other countries and Malawi beyond Jamaica, we can talk about the case study of Ras Kondwani Makina, also known as Agabos of Dan. right? Just to give an example of how South Africa is connected to Malawi as far as the development of Rastafari is concerned. So we had Ras Kondwani Makina. He left with his father from Malawi to live in Cape Town in 1991. And while in Cape Town, he was exposed to Black consciousness. And then around 1992, he embraced Rastafari while in Cape Town, and he used to congregate at the Marcus Garvey camp in Cape Town. Then in 1994, in October, he came back to Malawi to enroll at the University of Malawi. We call it the Polytechnic campus for a diploma in architecture. And while at the Polytechnic, just a few weeks when he arrived at the campus, he interacted with Ras Ray Harawa. And they shared their Rastafari experiences. He talked about his experiences in Cape Town, and he also learned about the local context amidst the transition from the one-party state which had just occurred. And then together they saw the need for congregating, and they arranged to begin to congregate at the campus, at the Polytechnic, towards the end of 1994. And Ras Kondwani Makina, being a student at the university, at the campus, he secured a venue at the campus, and they started congregating for Sabbath gatherings. And that was the second congregation of Rastafari to be established in the country. The first one was established in the same year, 1994, in Soche Mountain. And then this was the second one. And a few times after congregating at the campus, they moved the Sabbath gatherings to what we call Moody Forest, which is not far from the campus, about 1.5 kilometers from the campus. And that's how the second Rastafari congregation in the country emerged. And South Africa has a connection in the emergence of the congregation through Ras Kondwani Makina, who had relocated to South Africa, Cape Town, got exposed to Black consciousness, became a Rastafari. He brought the knowledge and some literature and the experiences from South Africa to Malawi, and blended that experience with the local context, within the local context, and together with brethren within, they then came together to begin a second congregation of Rastafari in the country. So in conclusion, I wanted to share that Rastafari in Malawi reflects the local struggle of the global Black consciousness. The Rastafari movement in Malawi demonstrates resilience under repression during the one-party state in particular. And there's also international connection that has been central to the development of Rastafari in Malawi. And this is the story that is packaged in this book that is coming out in March 2026, being published by the Lost History Foundation. Allow me to stop there and probably welcome inputs in form of questions, additions, subtractions, and then we wrap up, or rather take it from there. Thank you, Chair. Many thanks.
Hello, Chief.
Yes, I can hear you. Was there an interruption?
No, I think
Network.
Yeah, but it was just fractions of seconds, but it could be on my side.